Alright, what's up guys? Second Survival here. Welcome back to another Bleach Rebirth of Souls video. With the game coming out this week, I thought now would be a perfect time to go over everything you have to know before the game comes out. This is the first time I've ever done a video like this following a kind of loose script that I drafted up here. We're just going to be going over like everything that you need to know, from release dates to the roster, what consoles it's on, gameplay mechanics, everything. So buckle up. This will probably be a little bit of a longer video, although probably not as long as the tier list video that I just did. Thank you guys for showing so much support on that video. I love you guys for that, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video as well. But I don't want to keep this intro going very long, so without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. What is Bleach Rebirth of Souls? If you're a Bleach fan, chances are you've already heard of this game, but if for whatever reason you haven't, Bleach Rebirth of Souls is a 3D anime fighting game developed by Tamsoft, published by Bandai Namco, and I know a lot of people were thinking that it was going to be an arena fighter, but the developers have stated that this is not an arena fighter. This is just a 3D fighter. The characters are constantly facing each other. You don't have full 360-degree area of movement. But you can kind of take the battle to the air. You can keep it on the ground, depending on how you and your opponent knock each other back. But it is not a arena fighter. It is a 3D fighter. I think they called it an axis fighter at one point, where you kind of fight on different axes, and but you're always constantly facing your opponent, rushing towards your opponent, but you can dodge side to side. So it's not like your traditional like 2D fighter, because there's that extra depth of field on the left and right, but it isn't like a full arena fighter. So let's just get right into the roster, the confirmed characters so far. There are 32 confirmed characters so far, although there's a lot of speculation that Dangai Ichigo will be an unlockable character to make the roster be 33 confirmed characters. There's a lot of speculation that you would have to beat the story in order to unlock Dangai Ichigo, and the recent promotional material that Bandai Namco is posting seems to be leaning into that a little bit, but we're just going to go over the confirmed characters so far. So we have Ichigo Kurosaki. He has two variants in the game right now. He has a Shikai variant and a Bankai variant. We have Rukia Kuchiki, we have Uryu, we have Chad, we have Byakuya, Yoruichi, Kisuke, Gin, Rangiku, Toshido, Kenpachi, Ukiota, Tozen, Soifan, Renji, Izuru, Nell, Grimmjow, Mayuri, Aizen, Yamamoto, Shinji, Xyolapro, Shunsui, Kamamura, Shuhei, Ikaku, Noitra, Haribel, Stark, and Kaien Shiba. And if you're worried about the game modes of the game, the main, I think, draw for a lot of fighting game fans is the online PvP, but this does also have a full fleshed on story mode that takes place all of the beginning of Bleach through the end of the Arrancar arc. So we're talking majority of Bleach here. So far, there hasn't been any confirmation on any story DLC, but we do know that there will be 4 playable DLC characters coming to the game, and that they will be Thousand Year Blood War arc characters. So I don't know what they're doing with the Fullbring arc, because that's a pretty important arc of Bleach. I hope that we get some maybe free updates or something with like Ginjo as a playable character, but we'll just have to wait and see. But there is a fully fleshed story mode for you guys if you don't want to sweat online. And I think recent leaks have been saying that they put the story mode at around 30 to 40 hours. So it's a pretty long story mode, all things considered. And that'll take you through, you're not just playing as Ichigo, obviously you're playing as a lot of the different members of the cast, doing the canon fights from the source material. And then on top of that, every member on the roster has secret stories as well, where you can kind of take them on their own side missions and do something that's like their own separate story, and play as them and probably unlock things for them, but we don't know what those unlocks will be. But there is just more than the story as well. You can also just choose to do like missions per that specific character through the secret story. So yeah, that's the roster, and I'm not sure what they're going to do about Fullbring characters at all. So there are 3 editions of Bleach Rebirth of Souls that you can purchase. The standard edition costs $60 US, and it comes with just the base game, as you might imagine. The deluxe edition costs $85 US, which comes with the base game, the season pass with 4 playable DLC characters, and a set of soul crystals, which purpose is not really clear yet. They haven't really gone over what the soul crystals will do, but a lot of people are assuming that they're just going to be little buffs that you can give your character during the story mode, based on the naming of the soul crystals, because we have you know, like defense crystals, attack crystals, spiritual pressure crystals. So we're assuming that those things will just give you like a little bit of boost for those stats while you're doing a fight in the story mode, just in case you get stuck or anything. We're not sure if it'll have any like difficulty settings in the story mode, but this should help you out regardless if you're having trouble. The third edition of the game that you can get is the Ultimate Edition for $100 US, which comes with the base game, the season pass, 5 original costumes for Rebirth of Souls, and then 5 costumes based on the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. And the 5 original costumes are for Renji, Kisuke, Konpaku, Gin, and Shunsui. The 5 1,000-Year Blood War arc costumes we're getting are for Byakuya, Rangiku, Nell, Green Zhao, and Mayuri. And then you also get more of those soul crystals as well. Like I think before it was just some spiritual pressure crystals. With this edition, you also get attack and defense crystals on top of the spiritual pressure crystals that you got before. All right, so what does Bleach Rebirth of Souls launch on? So it actually launches on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series S and X, and then PC through Steam. There is unfortunately no crossplay between consoles, but there is cross-platform between PS4 and PS5 if old gen and new gen want to play with each other. But it sucks that unfortunately there is no crossplay between Xbox, PC, PlayStation, Xbox. It's same console only, unfortunately. All right, I think that about covers it for the details surrounding the game and just about the game. So now we're going to dive into the game's mechanics and what you can expect when you are picking a character and choosing to fight, how everything works actually in-game. But before we get into that, just a reminder to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys find this video at all helpful or you enjoy it. This video did take more time than normal with the research and the time commitment to put into it, so I'd really appreciate your guys' support. I also stream live over on Twitch and this YouTube channel, and I'll be doing a 12-hour stream when the game comes out. But that out of the way, let's just get back into the topic of the video. All right, so let's quickly go over the controls of Rebirth of Souls. Don't worry right now if these don't really make sense, as I'll be explaining what the moves are later in the video and how to actually use them in combat. But for right now, I just want to go over what the actual buttons of the game are and what the universal attacks, what sort of attacks and moves you're able to perform in the game. So each character has access to light attacks, flash attacks, which are basically heavy attacks, signature attacks, which are unique to each character, and spiritual pressure moves. As well as that, they have a grab attack called a breaker. They also have a block with a corresponding guard gauge that shows you how much longer you can block for. And then it also features a rock, paper, scissors style of fighting. So attack beats breaker. So if someone's trying to grab you, you can hit them out of it. Breaker beats guard, sorry. So if the opponent's guarding a lot, you can grab them out of the block. And then guard beats your normal attack. So there's always something that you can do to open somebody up. They can't just hide behind their shield the whole game. And if you notice that someone's just grabbing you all the time, then you can hit them out of that. So there's always a way to beat one of the other types of combat. There are also special animated moves known as Kikon moves, and they're unique to each character. We'll be going over those a little bit more in detail later on in the video. But first, I just wanted to go over the actual button inputs for each of those moves that I just described. So face buttons are universal for each character, but potentially different combo strings for each character. So for example, X or square, if you're on PlayStation, is light attack. Y or triangle is that flash attack, heavy attack. B or circle is your character's signature attack, which is unique again to each character. A or X, if you're on PlayStation, is a dash. So you can dash towards your opponent, you can dash up, you can dash backwards, you can dash to the side. The D-pad or the joystick can be used for movement. I think in this game, traditionally in fighters, I tend to use the D-pad, but we'll see with that extra depth of movement there from side to side, we'll see what I end up using. But going forward, L1 is your block button, R1 is your breaker, that grab attack. And then getting into some more in-depth mechanics, we have L2 plus either Y or B which is triangle or circle if you're on PlayStation, is how you choose your character's spiritual pressure moves. So each character will have 2 spiritual pressure moves. You will press left trigger and then either the top button or the most right face button to choose between your character's 2 spiritual pressure moves. We'll get into how spiritual pressure moves work a little bit later in the video as well. And then L2 plus X or square is your reverse action. We'll also go over what reverse action is later in the video as well. L2 plus A or X is your flash step move. R2 is your Kikon move. And finally, pressing down on both the joysticks at the same time is how you use your Awakening, which again, we'll go into all of this in more depth later in the video. So before we get to that though, let's talk about the HUD of the game. When you actually load up a match of Rebirth of Souls, everything that you'll be looking at visually, breaking that down for you because it can definitely be overwhelming when you first look at it. So in the top left and right are the characters you and your opponent have chosen, followed by their health bar, or reishi as this game calls it. Under your health, you'll see the guard gauge, which determines how long you can block before your defense is broken and you're left open to an attack. Above your health is how many stocks your character has, known as Konpaku, in this game. While battling your opponent and dwindling down their health down to 0, you don't simply win the game or round, but instead you take stocks of Konpaku. So the idea is to get your opponent's stock of Konpaku down to 0. You can know how many Konpaku are at risk of being lost by how many are highlighted in orange. The yellow one is for a mechanic that we'll go over a little bit later as well. But for the most part, you're looking at the orange highlighted ones, and that's how many stocks traditionally you're at risk of losing. We'll go over how to actually take those stocks and ways that you can take even more stocks soon. But for now, let's just keep talking about the HUD. To the left of your character's health, you'll see a meter that will gradually fill up over the course of the game. This is your Awakening meter that, once filled, will allow your character to evolve, potentially giving them access to new abilities, damage boosts, and more. Evolving or Awakening is different for each character. Sometimes it's a Bankai, sometimes it's a Shikai release, sometimes it's just a standard kind of power boost where nothing really changes, but they just kind of get stronger. So they're based on the abilities in universe. So for example, Ikkaku goes from Shikai to Bankai in his Awakening. Shuhei goes from just a traditional Zanpakuto to his Shikai form, and so on. Down at the bottom of the screen, you can see 2 bars of meter. The top yellow bar is your spiritual pressure meter. Every character has unique spiritual pressure moves that they can use, costing different amounts of spiritual pressure to cast. This meter also fills up as you attack or get attacked in-game. The bar below that is your reverse meter that has 2 main functions. One function is to use a teleport, allowing you to close the gap on your opponent and follow up on attacks, or to defensively dodge out of the way of your opponent's attack and attempt to take your turn back. So that was the L2 plus A or X that I was referring to earlier. This takes a little bit of that gauge to do, and it's the flash step, it's the Sonaido, it's whatever the teleport mechanic is in Bleach for that character. So this you can use to, like I said, dodge attacks, and if you dodge at the last second right as an attack is about to hit, you'll actually perform a perfect flash or a perfect dodge, and you will do this little animation, appear behind your opponent, and you'll be able to take your turn back. So it's a really cool feature. I think that kind of feeds into the Bleach vibe of the game. I really like that they did that little bit of extra detail in the game. The other option is known as reverse action, which has 3 different forms that trigger automatically on press depending on what situation you're in. So that's the L2 plus X or square if you're on PlayStation. There's 3 different types of reverse action. These proc automatically on press depending on what situation you're in. So there's blue reverse action that's triggered if you use your reverse action while being attacked. This breaks you out of your opponent's combo, launching them away, and also refills your guard gauge so that you can start blocking again. So it's kind of the combo breaker if you're familiar with like Mortal Kombat. It gets you out of danger. There's the yellow reverse action that's kind of the inverse of that. That is triggered if you use your reverse action while you're the one attacking. That can be used to extend combos and strings together, so to keep the combo going, to be super offensive in their face, you want to use that reverse action, and then you'll turn yellow, keep the combo going. There's also white reverse action that's triggered when you're neither attacking or being attacked, when you're in neutral. And then this version of reverse action increases how much spiritual pressure you gain, so you can use your spiritual pressure moves more rapidly, and also slowly recovers reishi, or your health meter. I think depending on how you attack the opponent, you'll see a little blue bar in front of your reishi, and then you're able to get that amount of health back. So all different forms of reverse action explained right there. I know they never really fully went over that, but they're very useful, and I wasn't sure about them being procced automatically and you not being able to choose, but I think it's very intuitive that you won't have to worry about which one to use in that moment. It just knows which one you need at that time, and it'll use the one that's applicable to you. All right, so those are all the HUD elements you need to pay attention to. Now let's get into the game, how it will actually progress over the course of the fight, and how you'll eventually defeat your opponent. As mentioned previously, the goal of the game is to reduce your opponent's Konpaku stocks to 0. To do this, you will need to use your character's Kikon move, that special animated move that I was talking about earlier. This move can technically be done at any time, but it isn't recommended to do so since it can be easily blocked or dodged if the opponent is ready for it. So instead, the Kikon move should be used after a mortar launcher, or what this game calls Hakugeki, which can be done by pressing your Kikon move, and then if that lands, you can continue holding it in certain conditions, and your character will follow through with the animated move. The Hakugeki is visually, it looks like a red spin attack that your character does, like a red and black spin heavy attack that sends your opponent away. When your opponent has 30% or less HP, doing a combo string into Hakugeki, or even just sometimes a raw Hakugeki if your opponent's not blocking, that will prompt you to use your Kikon move by saying now or never. And if you keep holding your Kikon move button, your character will launch a special animated attack that destroys Konpaku. So your character, or the opponent, doesn't have to be at 30%. They can just be not blocking, unfortunately. Or you can do a Hakugeki at the end of a string when they're not at 30% and still try to go for that Kikon move. They don't have to be at 30%, but when they're 30% or less and you do use a Hakugeki successfully on them, you will be prompted for that now or never and be able to use your Kikon move guaranteed if you continue holding down that input. So at the start of the game, normally your Kikon move will take away 2 stocks of Konpaku. This can be further increased in multiple ways. Some are universal and some are character specific. An easy way to take an extra stock of Konpaku is to completely drain your opponent's health bar down to 0 before you use your Kikon move. So instead of using a Hakugeki at 30% and doing a Kikon move that way, if you get them down to 0%, this is known as soul break, and there'll be a little animation of the opponent falling backwards, and it will automatically trigger your Kikon move. If you defeat your opponent in this way, it will take an extra stock of Konpaku. Secondly, when you use your character's Awakening, your Kikon move will also do 1 more stock of damage for the rest of the game. So once your character awakens, you'll start doing 3 stocks of damage by default, add a soul break on top of that, and then you'll be doing 4 stocks of damage to their Konpaku. You'll notice that once you awaken though, the bar does not stop filling up, but instead becomes red. Filling this bar again will put your character in their Sublimation state. While in Sublimation, your Kikon move will do another stock of Konpaku damage. So theoretically, if you're awakened in Sublimation mode and get a soul break, you will take 5 stocks of Konpaku from your opponent. As stated before, some characters can potentially take even more than that though. For example, Shikai Ichigo, while using his reverse action, has the passive buff of taking 1 extra stock, allowing him and most likely some other characters in the game to take up to 6 stocks of Konpaku at a time. It's more important to know that this system isn't always universal, and there are always exceptions for the rule though. For example, in some gameplay released of Rukia vs. Byakuya a while back, Rukia reaches Sublimation, but doesn't seem to be able to take another stock of Konpaku for some reason. So this really just means that we'll have to get our hands on the characters and see how they differ from each other, because it could be that there's certain character interactions with Sublimation that either allow you to take an extra one or don't allow you to take an extra one. But by default, for most of the cast, it seems like reaching Sublimation will also allow you to take another stock of Konpaku. All right, so that was a lot of information, but we're still not done. You'll notice that even after you achieve Sublimation, the bar fills up once again, and when this is filled, one of 2 things can happen. Some characters on the roster, like Bankai Ichigo or Ukiura, have a Reawakening, where they can transform yet again into their final form, such as Full Hollow Ichigo or Segunda Etapa Ukiura. For characters that don't have Reawakenings, though, which is most of the roster, they'll enter Spirit Drive, which increases your overall damage dealt, reduces damage taken, increases your movement speed, and increases the amount of spiritual pressure you acquire so that you can use your spiritual pressure moves more often. From what I can tell, Reawakenings and Spirit Drive don't make you take an extra stock of Konpaku when you use your Kikon move, but it's just those buffs that I mentioned before, as well as the Reawakening changing characters' moves. Like, obviously, Full Hollow Ichigo is not going to have the same moveset as Bankai Ichigo. He'll fight a little bit differently, but he'll still have the same spiritual pressure moves and whatnot. It is possible that there could be some character-specific interactions with the system, though, just like how Shikai Ichigo can take an extra stock if he's in reverse action. There could be something down the line where a character can take an extra stock if they're in Spirit Drive or a Reawakening, for example. But we just will need to play the game in order to figure that out. All right, so I think that's about everything. Of course, there's still so much more to figure out about this game. A lot of questions still remain. Most of the information that we've gathered has been from 1-minute trailers for people, as well as the gameplay that's been coming out recently every day. But there's still a lot unknown about this game. But hopefully this video helped clear some things up for you guys. Let me know if you have any more questions down in the comment below, as I hope to gain an understanding with you guys as we both gear up for this game. As I said, this video took a really long time to record and research, and just a big time commitment, more than the traditional reaction videos that I do. But it was my first time doing a video like this based loosely on a script, so sorry if I'm a little stiff or I say or it's not as highly produced as some other channels. But I thank you guys for watching and being here. I hope this helped you guys out. If it did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me over on Twitch, or check out the live streams here. I'll be doing that 12-hour stream on YouTube and Twitch when this game launches the 21st. And I think that's about it, guys. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.